Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 4 NBA player props to go ahead and share with you guys in today's NBA slate. But first, before we dive into today's picks, guys, a quick little recap of how we did last night. And to the guy who commented that he faded me and did well, I want to know, did you fade all the picks or just 1 or 2 of them? Because we actually had an okay night. 3-2 overall last night. It's not the most exciting night overall. We did have a slight win. Unfortunately, we were kind of P-U-S-S-Y. We don't want to say it because I don't want to get flagged by YouTube here. But we were a bit of a kitty cat there when it came to the James Harden prop. We only put half a unit. We should have probably put a full unit down plus money play. But you know what? Overall, 3-2 night. We didn't lose money. We had a slight gain in the profit standpoint. 0.15 units gained. So if you bet $100 on my picks yesterday, you'd only be up $15 profit. Not really a huge profitable night, but we didn't lose money either. So that is a win. 3-2. We're now 194 and 157 on our single bets. We are cashing these guys at a 55.3% hit rate this year. That is sharp. We are sharp this year with our NBA player props, which is really cool to see. But yeah, Anthony Edwards really screwed us. My man had 24 points with 9:30 to go. The Minnesota Timberwolves blew that game. Minnesota was up by 20 with like 9:30 to go. They blew it and lost to Milwaukee. Anthony Edwards had 24 points. He finished the game with 25. He had 1 point in the final 9 minutes, played like 40 minutes, shot 10 for 27 from the floor. Just an awful night. And even SGA, we missed by 1 assist. So some very narrow misses, but they are misses nonetheless. Overall, not a bad night. But I think we can certainly do better, especially from a profit standpoint. I'm going to go ahead and prove it to you guys. 4 player props coming your way right now. All right, guys, jumping right into the outlier screen. Our first player prop in today's slate comes from the game of the night. Lakers, Mavericks. Luka Doncic's return to Dallas for the first time since being traded to the Lakers. 7:30 p.m. tip-off. And unlike most people who are obviously tailing Luka, and I honestly really wanted to because, if you guys know, I have an addiction to betting on Luka this year and every year, really. I opted not to just because the lines are so heavily elevated that I just don't think it's worth the risk here. Instead, I'm taking Anthony Davis over 25.5 points because this is also his quote-unquote revenge game also. Now, Luka has played the Mavericks since being traded, but it was in Los Angeles. This is the first time that Anthony Davis gets to play his former team, and honestly, he probably has some bones to pick after being traded to Dallas. The Lakers kind of giving up on him. Davis, he's been back now for a couple weeks from this groin injury. The last couple games playing very well. Over 25.5 points. This is also his revenge game, so I do like him in this spot. Minus 114 odds over on FanDuel. Pretty good value. He's cashed the over in 5 of his last 10 games. Now, to be fair, he's only played I believe, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Cool, quick math there. 7 games of the Mavericks, and obviously he's only played a few since returning from injury. So a lot of the data is hard to go off of here. I mean, the overall numbers for this season, a 51% hit rate on the over. He's averaging 25 points per game this year. We can again go ahead and narrow it down to the last 5 games. He's cashed in 2 of his last 5. The last 2 games, like I mentioned, he has started to really pick it up. 34 points versus Atlanta, 27 points in their last game out against the Clippers. He's starting to put it back together. He's still not even 100% healthy. And again, we don't have a lot to go off of. We don't have any head-to-head data. We don't really have a ton of data for him in a Mavericks jersey. Really what we're going off of is the last couple games and the overall matchup here. And I guess the motivation. Look at the last 5 games for AD. He's averaging about 29 minutes per game, which is good, playing a decent amount of minutes. The one thing that intrigues me is the shot numbers, all right? He's averaging almost 19 shot attempts per game over the last 5 games. And obviously, the state of this Dallas team, Kyrie Irving done for the year. They have a lot of guys who are just coming back from injury. Derek Lively's back, but playing limited minutes. Anthony Davis really is the go-to guy unless you want to conclude Max Christie or Spencer Dinwiddie. They're getting PJ Washington back. Like, they're getting healthier in time for the play-in and the playoffs here. But it seems like over the last 5 games, Anthony Davis has become the go-to target for this team offensively, and that's what we want to see. A high volume of shot attempts is what we want to see. The last 2 games, he's starting to shoot a little bit better, too. You see the earlier games, 19 shots, 26% from the floor, 23 shots, 30% from the floor. As long as the volume is there, the rest will come. And you do see, again, the last couple of games, 42%, 61%. Honestly, if he's taking almost 20 shots a game, 19 shots a game, he doesn't need to shoot better than 42% or 40%. You know what I mean? Like, he shot 42% shot 8 for 19, and he still cashed the over with 27 points. So the volume is certainly there. He's playing power forward, which is more his natural position compared to when he was with the Lakers playing the center spot. Versus power forwards, the Lakers, they rank 18th in the NBA overall this year in points allowed, giving up 23.8 points per game. If you do narrow it down to the last 7 games, they're basically the same spot. They're 19th, so at one spot lower, I should say, not tier. They're 18th overall in the year, 19th over the last 7 games, so they've been pretty consistent where, you know, they do rank in the bottom half of the league in points allowed to power forwards, but I wouldn't say this team is terrible defensively. I wouldn't say this is the greatest matchup of all time for Anthony Davis. But again, if the Mavericks, there are some playoff implications. If Dallas wins today, they lock in their play-in tournament spot and eliminate the Phoenix Suns from having a shot. So there are some big implications here for Dallas. I mean, I don't think Phoenix is going to catch them, but mathematically, Phoenix could still catch them. But if they win today, Dallas ends that conversation. You have the motivational factor of Davis playing his former team. You definitely know that he's probably got some hurt feelings about being traded. All that stuff, the volume of shots taken, the last couple games, I think it's worthy bet to go ahead and take a chance on from -114 odds too. Pretty good value. So that's our first player prop in today's slate. All right, guys, for our second player prop in today's slate, we're moving on to the Miami Heat Chicago Bulls game, 8 p.m. tip-off. And I'm giving Tyler Hero a shot at redemption here. We're taking his over 30.5 points plus assists. Now, we did take this same player prop just the other night versus Philly, and he did not come through for us at all. Finished the game with 20 points and 2 assists. I think the line was honestly exactly the same, 30.5, and he just clearly missed it. But I'm giving him a shot at redemption here because I like the matchup, and the data is still pretty solid for the most part. Now, the overall data isn't fantastic. The recent data is definitely much better. You see 7 of his last 10 games, he's gone ahead and cashed the over. That's a 70% hit rate over the last 10 games, averaging 30.7 points plus assists per game over his last 10 games. He had cashed it in 5 consecutive games going into that last matchup with the Philadelphia 76ers. So like I said, from a recent standpoint, pretty good. Even if you go ahead and narrow it down to the last 5 games, 4 of his last 5, 80% hit rate, averaging 32.8 points plus assists per game over his last 5 games. Now, like I said, if you do go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view, not as impressive, just a 44% hit rate on the year for Tyler Hero. 33 out of 75 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 29.39 points plus assists per game overall this season. That being said, when you take the recent data and combine it with the matchup data and the head-to-head stuff, it seems to be a pretty good player prop. He's cashed the over in 2 of his last 3 meetings with the Chicago Bulls. It's a 67% hit rate, averaging 30.67 points plus assists per game over those last 3 matchups. Now, their most recent matchup back on March 8th, he did miss the mark with 21 points and 6 assists in that loss for Miami. And ultimately, we saw a lot what we wanted to see. It just, he didn't shoot the ball that well. 19 shot attempts, but shot 8 for 19. He shot just 2 for 7 from 3. We don't have the potential assist data, unfortunately, but he did have 6 assists in that game. So it seems like he only missed it by 4. So obviously, he shoots the ball a little bit better. We should be good to go. They did play another time earlier this year on February 4th, and he did cash the over in that one with 23 points and 9 assists. A narrow cash, but a cash nonetheless. And even in that game, he left some opportunities on the table there, shot 5 for 15. So he really hasn't shot the ball that great. He's shooting about 41% across those last 3 matchups. So we'd like to see that go a little bit better. But on paper, it should be a good matchup because Chicago defensively overall this year, bottom 3 in both points and assists allowed overall this year. Versus the shooting guard position, 27th in points, 18th in assists, and even versus point guards, where Hero does play some minutes, not many, but some minutes, 23rd in points and 29th in assists. So it seems like a pretty good defensive matchup. Even if you go ahead and narrow the data down to the last 7 games, it's not as impressive, but they're still bottom half of the league in both those categories. So it is a pretty solid matchup. And then finally, the insights provided by Outlier. Tyler Hero has exceeded 30.5 points plus assists in 4 of his last 5 games versus bottom 10 defenses for points allowed, averaging 34 points plus assists per game over that 5-game data range. And again, Philadelphia did go in that data range. It just didn't play all that well against Philly, although Miami did win. There's also some playoff implications here. Obviously, both these teams have already clinched play-in spots. Right now, Chicago's the 9 seed. Miami's the 10 seed. This game is very important for home court advantage in that 9-10 game, but also they're only a game back of Atlanta for the 8 seed, so there is still something at play here for Miami. This game is a preview of the potential 9-10 game in that Eastern Conference play-in tournament, so kind of an important game for them. So I do think Tyler Hero, especially coming off of a missed opportunity and a pretty poor performance against Philly his last time out, I do think Tyler Hero will have a nice bounce back game here in this matchup versus a pretty porous Bulls defense. So that's our second player prop in today's slate. Guys, we still have 2 player props left in today's video, but first I wanted to go ahead and say thank you to everybody who's still watching the video at this point. We always appreciate those who watch through each and every single video here on the channel. I wanted to take this time to talk about something real quick, and I wasn't going to do this. Guys, if you are here for the picks, I don't want to ramble, and I don't want people who are just here for the sports picks, which obviously is the purpose of these videos. I don't want you guys to get bored or frustrated with me. If you're just here for the picks, you don't want to hear a personal story I'm about to share with you guys, fast forward like 2 minutes into the video and we'll get back to the picks. There's something I do want to address, and there's been a lot of comments lately, and honestly, I've been doing YouTube now for 2 years. I was waiting for it to happen. I've been seeing the comments more and more the last several weeks, so that's why I decided finally to go ahead and address it, because it is kind of funny seeing the comments about the eyebrow. Yes, I have one eyebrow that is bushier and darker than the other. No, it is not a botched eyebrow waxing or job or whatever. It is not. It's not on purpose. It's not a fashion statement, me having one eyebrow that's thicker than the other. I wanted to tell this story just because we are a community here, and I'm getting to know you guys more. You guys are getting to know me more. I thought it's a cool story to go ahead and share. It's something I've been insecure about my entire life, but I am working through it. So this is kind of a therapeutic thing for me to go ahead and talk about it to thousands of people online that I don't even know. But the reason why one eyebrow is darker than the other is technically this eyebrow here, the darker one, is not even an eyebrow. I was born with a very rare skin condition. If you can Google it, it's called a Becker's nevus. Not that rare, but the location of it was very rare. If you know what a Becker's nevus is, it's a birthmark that's hairy. It's usually on your shoulder or your back or your thigh or your chest. Usually it's in an area where you don't see it unless you're, on the beach or in the pool or whatever. But I am one, and I don't know the number. I can't remember. I'm literally one of a kind. I'm one of I think 7 was the number. One of 7 people in medical history that has had it on their forehead. Yeah, I literally am a medical novelty. I'm very rare in terms of where I had it. So, this right now, this is not an eyebrow. This is the remnant of the birthmark. The interesting part of the story as well, along with the fact that it's a very rare skin thing, I had a plastic surgery to remove it when I was 3 years old. My surgery was on the morning of 9/11 in New York. So literally around the time that the World Trade Center went down in the 9/11 terrorist attacks, I was in the operating room having the surgery on my forehead. So yeah, all around, kind of a cool story. Like I said, kind of a medical novelty. And then at the same time, my surgery to remove it was on 9/11, literally while the World Trade Center attacks were happening. We were in New York too, so it was kind of a scary moment for my parents. But yeah, so that's, I've seen a lot of comments lately about it. And like I said, doing YouTube for 2 years, I was waiting to see when more comments would come in, because obviously it's noticeable. As I've gotten older, naturally being Greek, the other eyebrow is darker. But this is not an eyebrow. This is basically what's left over. They tested it. When they removed the most of it, they tested it for cancer. Obviously it came back benign, no cancer or anything, no disease. So they left this because they didn't want me to have no eyebrow, and it would really be noticeable. So they basically formed it and molded it to look like an eyebrow, but this is what's left over from the birthmark. And I'll go ahead and show you guys. There's the scar, obviously, across my entire forehead. That's where the whole birthmark used to be. So what my eyebrow is used to be over my entire head. And this is obviously the scar. It's the reason why I wear hats. I have cousins and family members and close friends who they don't find out until I went to Greece last summer, and one of my cousins who I've known my entire life was like, "When did you get that scar?" I always wear hats. I always wear my hair down a little bit longer in the front so that you guys can cover it. So yeah, just cool story I thought I would share with you guys. And also because I've seen so many comments lately about the eyebrow, I figured, hey, I'll go ahead and come clean and tell you guys what it's really all about. Like I said, did I really need to go on this little 3-minute, 4-minute ramble about this in an NBA player prop video? No, I didn't, but we are a community, and you guys, a lot of people watch me every single day, so I thought I'd go ahead and share an interesting fact about myself, and also kind of address some of the comments that have been very funny. And I'm not at the point now where I'm old enough and I've dealt with it for so long where it doesn't bother me. I am still a little insecure about it, but it doesn't bother me as much as it used to be when I was a kid. But yeah, so that is the interesting. I had massive plastic surgery. I literally have a massive scar on my stomach as well, because they took skin from my waist and then basically reconstructed my forehead with that skin. So I've had a couple of big plastic surgeries in my day. So if you guys did listen to that story, comment one of a kind down below, because that's basically what I am. One of a kind. It's a very rare thing. I wish I could find the medical. I'm in a medical book. I wish I could figure out where it is. The plastic surgeon who did my surgery wrote a book, and I was one of the case studies in the book. So I wish I could find it. I don't really remember. I got to ask my parents about that. But yeah, cool story. Comment one of a kind down below. If you did listen through that entire story, I apologize to those who were just here for the picks. They had to listen to that, but I thought it was a cool thing to go ahead and share with you guys, and again, addressing some of the comments from the last couple of days. So yeah, with all that being said, that little kind of detour from our picks, we have 2 player props still to go. Let's dive right back in. All right, guys, our third player prop in today's slate comes from the Nuggets-Kings game, 10 p.m. tip-off. We're going Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets over 11.5 rebounds. A little juiced, -138 over on FanDuel, but is available on multiple sports books for varying odds. And honestly, it's juiced, but it's definitely worth it. The data is fantastic across the board here. Jokic cashed the over in 6 of his last 10 games, averaging 12 rebounds per game over his last 10. If you do go ahead and stretch the data out to the last 20 games, 14 of his last 20 he's cashed the over. That's a 70% hit rate, averaging 13.1 rebounds per game over his last 20 games. Stretch the data out even further to the entire season view for Jokic, and a 64% hit rate on the year for Jokic. He's averaging 12.79 rebounds per game this year. So some really solid green data across the board here for Jokic. And if all that didn't convince you, the head-to-head data also very convincing. He's cashed the over in 5 of his last 7 matchups with Sacramento, including 4 consecutive games. They played 3 times this year. He's cashed the over in all 3 games. He's had 14 rebounds, 22 rebounds, 15 rebounds in their most recent matchup. And Sacramento overall this year, not a bad rebounding team, but versus centers, they are bottom 10 in the NBA this year in terms of rebounds allowed to the center position. Going to be an interesting game here. Denver, obviously, they need to win this game for seeding purposes. They just fired Mike Malone in a shocking move yesterday. I don't really know how to explain that. Obviously, they have been on a little bit of a slide here, but they fired the GM too, so very intriguing. I don't think that will affect Jokic too much. I think his numbers should still be pretty constant, even regardless with all the coach firing and all the stuff, the drama behind the scenes happening in Denver. It's a good matchup. He's got a good history against them, good data across the board. It's -138 for a reason. We also have the insights provided by Outlier. He's exceeded 11.5 rebounds in 6 straight road games. He's averaging 14.7 rebounds per game over his last 6 road games. So some pretty good numbers across the board here from -138. Yeah, a little high on the odds standpoint, but I do think it's definitely worth throwing a unit or even a unit and a half on. Pretty good matchup here for Jokic. So that's our third player prop in today's slate. And finally, guys, our fourth and final player prop in today's slate comes from the Rockets-Clippers game, 10:30 p.m. tip-off. We got Kawhi Leonard of the Los Angeles Clippers over 25.5 points plus assists. We're against one for -105 odds over on DraftKings. However, it is available on multiple sports books for varying odds. And right off the rip, the matchup doesn't seem to be the best, but there's obviously some massive playoff implications here for the Clippers, and that's my motivation behind taking this player prop, is those postseason seeding factors definitely play a role here. Kawhi Leonard did sit out yesterday versus San Antonio, a very nice win for the Clippers, but he did sit out, and I believe he sat out so that he could be ready to go for this game. Obviously, Houston, a much tougher matchup than San Antonio at this point in the year. Now, we'll talk about the matchup in a second, why it's not the best matchup. However, the recent data is actually pretty strong here for Kawhi Leonard. He's cashed the over in 8 of his last 10 games, averaging 29.5 points plus assists per game over his last 10 games. If you go ahead and stretch the data out to the last 20 games for Kawhi Leonard, a 70% hit rate, 14 of his last 20, he's cashed the over, averaging 27.95 points plus assists per game over his last 20 games. Some pretty good numbers here for Kawhi Leonard on the recent data. The overall numbers just a 44% hit rate on the year. To be fair, he's only played 34 games this year for the Clippers, but a 44% hit rate in those 34 games, averaging 23.97 points plus assists per game over those 34 games. So like I said, the recent data, as you've seen him get a little bit healthier, he's starting to play better. The overall numbers are not fantastic. From a head-to-head standpoint, the data is not bad. He's cashed each of his last 2 matchups with Houston. However, a little outdated because both of those games come from last year. He hasn't played Houston yet this season. And so because of that, yes, it's pretty good. He's averaging 31.5 points plus assists per game over those last 2 matchups with Houston, but it's been over a year. Like the last time they played was March 6th. It's been over a year since they last played. How much can we really go off of there? Houston this year defensively, a really solid team. They are top 5 in both points and assists allowed. Kawhi Leonard plays power forward and small forward, kind of plays between those 2 spots. They are top 10 in both points allowed and assists allowed against power forwards, and top 4 actually versus small forwards. So, and even if you narrow it down to the last 7 games, it's a little bit better, but not much. They're a tough defensive team, but Kawhi Leonard, when he's working, when he's playing at his best, he is one of those guys who transcends matchups. The question is, how hard is he going to play? The Clippers right now have the 4 seed in the West. However, there's a 4-way tie between the 4, 5, 6, 7 seeds in the Western Conference. So a loss for the Clippers today against Houston could take them from the 4 seed and knock them all the way down to the 8 seed in the West, which is pretty crazy to think about, going from a top 4 seed to a play-in tournament team just from one loss. So this game is very important for the Clippers. Again, I believe they sat him yesterday so that he was ready to go for this game. Look at the injury report. He still listed as a game-time decision with the knee thing. I think he's going to play because it's a pretty important one for the Clippers. The only thing I can say is that Houston already pretty much has the 2 seed locked up. There's not really a ton to play for here, and you do see Şengün, Van Vliet, and Jabari Smith are all game-time decisions here. You could see Houston start to rest some guys here because, again, they're basically locked into that 2 spot now. So I think for minus 105 odds, too, it's definitely worth the risk. Again, he's cashed it in 8 of his last 10 games. Very important game with massive playoff implications for the Clippers here. So that's our 4th and final player prop in today's slate. Guys, thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. We'll be back tomorrow with another NBA player prop video. But until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Wednesday. Let's go ahead and make some money.